Hello, and welcome back to Awakening to Your Story TV, the place to learn, get inspired, and be supported with heart centered solutions for your everyday life. I'm your host, Alicia Hartzell, and today I'm excited to be talking with you about an emotional tool. It's actually two things that kind of come together for this perfect emotional tool called metacognition and positive bias. Now, you can always go down to the link below to go to the blog where I have everything written out for you, and it's the outline I'm going to follow today. Okay, now, one of the things that I want to look at as we get into this tool, which is one of my absolute favorite tools, is this idea that we have power over our brain and over our mind, right? Our mind is a tool designed to help us create our life. It's what our divinity and our humanity pull together to create the world in front of us. And we actually have power over it rather than it have power over us. And when you utilize this tool, it really gives you autonomy over your thoughts, right? So when would you use this tool? If you have a negative loop of thinking happening, right? We have all been there in a place where something external has triggered us, or we've been in a negative situation, or we have an internal dialogue that feels negative, and we keep circling back to it, right? The reason we keep circling back to it is because we all have this thing called a negative bias. And our negative bias is a biological response that's designed to help keep us safe. And this bias keeps us scanning not just the room or our environment, but scanning our mind and past experiences to try to find all the things that can hurt us, all the things that are out of place, all the things that might be a threat to us physically, emotionally, mentally, right? So this bias kind of can run in the background on autopilot, and we can find ourselves lost in a cycle of thinking that is negative simply because our negative bias has kicked in and taken over, right? Now, the good news is that neuroplasticity is always working in our favor. So our brain is constantly shifting and moving and creating new neural pathways. And if you use this emotional tool to help you create a place of thinking outside of that negative bias, that's when the magic starts, right? So let's talk a little bit about metacognition and positive bias and what that means and how you can use it as an emotional tool. Now, metacognition is your ability to witness your own thoughts, right? It's this kind of superpower that we have as human beings where we can actually take a step back and watch our thoughts and be conscious of what they are, where they're coming from, and kind of where they're going, right? So it's this ability to kind of stop mid-situation and participate in it rather than just reacting through it, right? So metacognition, the superpower, is really there to help you become less reactive. But you've got to activate it, right? You've got to be in a practice where you are aware that you're thinking something that doesn't feel right and that you have power over it, right? And it's as simple as turning it on. I see you. I'm bringing awareness there, and that's metacognition, right? Now, when you bring in positive bias, things get really exciting, okay? Positive bias is a learned neurological response where rather than scanning for what's wrong, you start to scan for what's right. You start to scan for what's good. You start to scan for what's working or what's possible, right? It's your ability to go through an experience picking out the things that are actually serving you. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit more about the brain and where these thoughts come from so that you can really kind of get in a relationship with it, right? So your prefrontal cortex is that place where all the executive function happens, all that higher level thinking. When you're doing meditation, when you're in a state of joy, when you are feeling very motivated and feeling like things are all coming together, you can see the big picture. All of that is happening from that prefrontal cortex. And so when you're scanning for the things that are right and good, you're pulling thought from that part of your brain, right? Now, when you're in that negative bias, those thoughts, that fight, flight, or freeze is your amygdala. And so you really have two different parts of your brain that have a bias, right? And you get to choose which one you're activating. Now, that positive bias is really a beautiful thing because it allows you to create optimism, where even if a really terrible situation happens or things that are challenging come up, because they always do, you have the ability to see past that moment into what is possible. Even if you don't necessarily have the answers yet or the path forward yet, you have that hope, that feeling of possibility built in. And that's how you know that you're scanning and you're utilizing that positive bias. You're thinking from that higher level perspective in your mind, right? Powerhouse. This is where magic happens, right? So what I want to do is I want you to kind of walk with me through what a 4-minute experience might be. We're going to look at the same 4 minutes through the eyes of a positive bias and then through the eyes of a negative bias. Okay. Now remember, positive bias, you're scanning for what's right, good, what feels good, what you're grateful for, what's working, what's possible, all those silver lining kind of things, right? Okay. You're in your car and you've been driving to get to a place where you have to go, right? Maybe it's school, maybe it's a work meeting, maybe it's a big important thing that you got to get to. It's timeline, you got to go. You pull into your parking spot and you think about how lucky you are to have a parking spot because there's never a parking spot. You pull in, you're like, oh my God, I got a parking spot. This is great. And you think back about all the traffic that you sat in and you think, interesting. If I had stressed out in traffic, I would maybe not have gotten this parking spot. I've been in a state of flow. Like, okay, the traffic, which I eased up on, got me here. That person was pulling out right when I came in. I got it. I'm in harmony. This is working for me. Okay, this feels good. Right? You get out of your car, you lock it, and you feel the sunshine on your skin. And you look up and you see the bright blue sky, and you're like, wow, I really feel grateful for the day, for the sky, for Mother Nature. This is amazing. And you keep walking, right? You're scanning. You see a really cool patch of flowers, right? Wildflowers, as you're walking by to get to the building. And you're like, whoa, look at the colors and the patterns on those as they're blowing in the breeze. You feel the corners of your mouth turn up, right? It has sparked a moment of joy, right? You're firing from that higher level thinking place. Those thoughts feel really good, right? You walk in, there's a person holding the door open for you. And you're like, thanks, man. You feel really good. You're like, I had a moment with another kind human being, and this is really amazing, right? There's gratitude. There's beauty. There's a sense of everything is working, right? That is you scanning from that positive bias. And it allows you to become present in the moment, right? You're not thinking about a million other things. You're in the moment, right? So you're present, you're alert, you're enjoying. This is what positive bias can do for you, right? Think of it like you're taking your camera, and you know how we all have filters on our cameras and they're fun and silly. Think about positive bias like a filter on your camera, and you have it facing out into the world, and it highlights with glitter and sparkles all of those positive things, and it brings it into the foreground and makes it big and beautiful. And all of the negative things kind of get pushed back into the background and kind of get muted out, right? This is what the positive bias is. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to walk you through the same 4-minute kind of walk, except through a negative bias, okay? Same person, same situation, but instead of having that positive bias activated, their negative bias is just on autopilot, right? They're not thinking about it. They're not in a conscious state of awareness, right? They're not watching their thoughts. It's just on autopilot. So they're in their car, they get to the parking space, and they think, why couldn't I have gotten a parking space closer to the front door? This is ridiculous, right? And then they think back about all the traffic and all the forking people that almost made them late, and their adrenaline rises. And they start thinking about how crappy it is. And that negative bias is going to start scanning for all the things that fit into that frustration, negative experience, right? So they get out of the car, they lock their door, and rather than being able to notice any of their surroundings, they start to pick up thoughts from before that were negative, right? Their brain goes into a place where they've been scanning for all the things that didn't fit, that weren't right, that might not be good, and they landed on a person earlier in the day that frustrated them. And they pick up that thought. They keep walking, and then they keep thinking about how wrong that person was, right? They keep walking. Frustration, annoyance, that negative loop of thinking. They get to the door. The person is standing there opening the door, and they kind of scoff at them, and they're like, God, what are they looking at? And they walk in, right? It's the exact same experience, but through a different filter. Both things are 100% true, right? This is the thing that I try to get my clients and the people that I work with to understand. And we talk about it a lot in the Jellyfish Beach and the Pina Colada Beach Path of Thinking, which is an emotional tool, which I will also link here and below. Both the negative thought and the positive thought are 100% valid and true. You get to choose which one you're going to focus on. It's up to you. You get to choose. Now, I don't want you to think that this tool is a negative experience, get out of jail free card, because it's just not. If you have a negative experience happening and you have information there that you need to deal with, you're going to have to do the work to deal with it. But if you have been practicing your positive bias, then what happens is when you have that negative information come in, you can utilize it as information rather than just react to it, right? That positive bias helps you get back into that place of executive functioning, higher level thinking, so that you can scan it and go, okay, I'm reacting here because this is triggering an old limiting belief that I need to work on. I need to go and heal through this limiting belief, right? Or you can scan and go, I am not safe physically, emotionally in this environment, and I'm going to create a path so that I can find my own place of safety, right? Because this tool isn't going to change an environment. It's not going to necessarily create everything roses, right? It's not going to have everything come up roses. What it's going to do is it's going to allow you to become an active participant in what's going on in your life. So if you're in an abusive situation, you find if you're in that higher level thinking, that you're worthy of more than that. And you can find a way out and get to a place where you can be safe. If you've got a limiting belief that is hammering down on you and it keeps showing up volume after volume after volume, you can get to that higher level thinking and go, there's something for me here to learn, right? So this is that really powerful tool that if you use on a regular basis, that neuroplasticity will kick in and it will become second nature. That filter can become second nature to you, right? Now, I suggest creating a practice where you set aside time every day to practice scanning for what is right, good, possible, feeling good. You can consider it a gratitude practice if you like. You can speak it out. You can write it down. Just show up for your thoughts, witness them, then filter them, right? I, again, will put more videos below. There's a video about Power of the Mind. I will also put them here at Power of the Mind, where we talk about how to kind of quiet down that amygdala response with breath work and things like that. But create a practice for yourself. Use these emotional tools to help you create the life that you want for yourself, right? And if you have limiting beliefs and that is a new idea to you, the video will also be there. It's an emotional tool as well. All of the emotional tools in the emotional tool library are designed to help you. I want you to be able to pull out these tools and use them so that you can have the life that you want. You can feel better in your experience and that you feel supported along the way. Okay? Now, if you have questions, let me know. If you feel stuck somewhere, I'm here for you. If you just want to share with me some of those things that are right and good, put them in the comments. I am a comment away. I'm here to help you in any way that I can, right? Okay. Head over to the blog, read more about everything, like and share this video, comment. I am here. I want to support you, cheer you on. And until next time, know that I am holding a place of love for you, where your ability to filter your life through a positive lens, well, it's undeniable.